Have you ever climbed into bed utterly spent, muscles heavy, eyes stinging, every part of you begging for rest, only to find that your brain has other plans? Your body tells you it's time to sleep, but your mind suddenly wakes up. Thoughts spool out like a late-night radio. Conversations replay, emails reappear, problems multiply, and awkward moments from years ago demand a rerun. The more you will yourself to sleep, the more alert you become. If this sounds familiar, you're far from alone. Night after night, millions of people experience this paradox. Exhaustion in the body paired with relentless alertness in the brain. Most people assume the problem is sleep. But what if sleep isn't the root cause? What if the issue starts earlier, inside the nervous system, in the circuitry of stress and anticipation? Today, we're exploring a common, often misunderstood cycle, the anxiety sleep loop. We'll look at why your brain sometimes refuses to switch off when you need it most, and what that reveals about how modern life shapes ancient biology. Start with one simple truth: the brain wasn't designed for modern life. Over evolutionary time, our brains evolved to solve immediate, survival-focused problems. Find food, avoid predators, protect kin, survive the next day. Stressors came, the body responded, the threat passed, and recovery followed. That rhythm, stress, recovery, kept organisms agile and alive. Modern life rewrites that script. Today's threats rarely disappear in a single moment. Deadlines linger, bills stack up, messages keep arriving, news cycles never end. The brain, which treats many psychological uncertainties as biologically important, stays activated. The nervous system can remain on high alert for hours, days, or even months. Instead of a rhythmic pulse of stress and recovery, many people now live with a steady hum of anticipation. That brings us to anxiety, and to a clarification that matters. Anxiety is often dismissed as just worrying, but biologically it's anticipation, the brain's predictive machinery trying to forecast possible threats. It asks, what could go wrong? What should I prepare for? What did I miss? In small doses, anticipation is adaptive. The humans who expected danger often survived. The problem is that the same mechanism now runs against an endless stream of information. Imagine your brain as a security guard. Its job is to spot potential problems. Modern life hands that guard 24/7 access to global news alerts, social media updates, financial dashboards, work notifications, and a non-stop flow of uncertainty. The guard is never off shift. Eventually, the nervous system starts behaving as if danger is constant. That perpetual vigilance is exactly what interferes with sleep. Sleep requires safety. Deep restorative sleep emerges when the brain concludes the environment is safe enough to relax. If your nervous system perceives a nearby threat, even a psychological one, you won't descend into deep slumber. You'll remain vigilant, primed to respond. Anxiety tells the brain that staying awake might be useful. Sleep becomes something risky. And here the loop begins. Anxiety activates the nervous system. Sleep becomes fragmented or elusive. Poor sleep next day reduces emotional resilience, impairs stress tolerance, and alters hormone rhythms, especially cortisol. That heightened reactivity makes anxiety easier to trigger, which in turn worsens sleep. Anxiety worsens sleep. Poor sleep worsens anxiety. Night after night, the loop can snowball. Cortisol sits at the center of this conversation. It's often labeled a stress hormone, but that's an oversimplification. Cortisol is essential for waking, focus, and many normal daily functions. The critical variable is timing. Cortisol naturally peaks in the morning to help us wake, then declines throughout the day, so melatonin and sleep processes can take over at night. Chronic stress, however, can blunt or shift this rhythm, producing the tired but wired state. The body feels physically exhausted while the nervous system remains alert. Energy signals and arousal signals begin to compete, and when they clash, sleep usually loses. Neuroscience adds another piece. Sleep deprivation alters how the brain handles emotion. Brain regions involved in fear processing and regulation, such as the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, are affected by poor sleep. After a night, or several nights, of inadequate rest, the brain becomes more reactive and less able to regulate emotions. Minor irritations swell into significant stressors. Small setbacks feel catastrophic. Over time, repeated sleep loss amplifies emotional volatility and lowers the threshold for anxiety. This is why sleep is increasingly recognized as a foundational mental health tool, not only for recovery and performance, but for emotional stability itself. Technology makes the loop worse. Our devices keep the nervous system constantly stimulated. Messages, news, alerts, social comparisons, and endless scrolling. Many people bring that stimulation into the bedroom, the very place the brain needs to associate with safety and recovery. Imagine trying to calm a lake while someone keeps throwing pebbles into it. The surface never stills. It's the same with the mind. Continuous stimulation keeps the nervous system activated, and activation competes with sleep. Heart rate variability, HRV, gives us a useful window into this process. HRV measures the variation in time between heartbeats and reflects the flexibility of the autonomic nervous system. Higher HRV generally signals stronger parasympathetic rest and digest while activity and better recovery capacity. Lower HRV can indicate accumulated stress and reduced resilience. After several poor nights of sleep, many people see HRV drop, resting heart rate rise, and subjective recovery decline. In other words, the body often shows the physiological consequences of stress before we consciously notice them. Now, for the encouraging part, the anxiety-sleep loop can work in reverse. Just as anxiety can degrade sleep, better sleep can reduce anxiety. Improved sleep enhances emotional regulation, increases resilience, sharpens decision-making, and quiets baseline nervous system activation. The loop can become virtuous. Recovery begets recovery. Resilience builds on resilience. Here are practical, biology-based interventions that create the conditions for sleep. Simple practices that reliably move the nervous system towards safety and recovery. Morning sunlight, exposure to natural light shortly after waking, helps anchor the circadian rhythm and reinforces the day-night signal for your brain. Consistent sleep timing. Going to bed and waking at regular times strengthens your internal clock, making sleep onset easier. Reduced evening screen exposure, dimming lights, and limiting blue light exposure and active stimulation before bed helps the brain downregulate and prepare for sleep. Regular exercise. Physical activity supports deeper sleep and improves mood. Timed earlier in the day, it's most helpful for sleep onset. Breathing practices and vagal stimulation. Slow, diaphragmatic breathing or short, structured breathing exercises can shift the autonomic balance toward parasympathetic dominance. Mindfulness and NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. Short practices that lower arousal can train the nervous system to relax without the pressure of trying to sleep. Limit caffeine late in the day. Caffeine can extend physiological alertness long after you drink it, so spacing it earlier helps. Psychological boundaries. Create a clear mental and physical separation between work and rest. Simple rituals like a short end-of-day notebook to offload worries or a consistent pre-sleep routine signal to the brain that the day is done. Optimize the sleep environment. Cool, dark, and quiet spaces with comfortable bedding make it easier for the nervous system to let go. One critical insight from sleep medicine is this: you cannot force sleep. You can only build the conditions that allow it. The harder you chase sleep, the more your nervous system interprets that chasing as urgency, more reason to stay alert. Sleep arrives when the brain feels safe enough to let go. At OXYZEN, we call this health intelligence. Seeing sleep not as an isolated event, but as part of a network that includes stress, recovery, and nervous system function. The body is not a collection of separate parts, it's an interconnected system. If your brain won't shut down, it's not broken. It's likely stuck in protection mode, doing the job it was built for, keeping you safe. The goal isn't to battle your brain, it's to teach your nervous system that it can stand down, that the environment is safe enough to rest. When the nervous system learns to allow sleep, something powerful happens. Recovery improves, resilience strengthens, anxiety fades, and the loop starts moving in the opposite direction. Sleep becomes a tool for mental health, not just physical recuperation. I'm Dr. Yende. Thank you for joining me on another episode of OXYZEN Health Intelligence. Remember, sometimes the problem isn't that your brain won't shut down. The problem is that it's been trying to protect you for too long. Recovery starts when it finally learns it can rest. I'll see you in the next episode.